Item 6, approval of the board policies and objectives. Policy 6.1, or 6.1, policy 108, reimbursement, revised, second reading. I'll take a few of these and move up. 6.2 is policy 121, meetings, revised, second reading. Policy 122, form, revised, second reading. Policy 6.4, policy 123, preparation of meetings, revised. 6.5, policy 124, order of business, revised. And 6.6, policy 125, names, minutes of meeting, the order of business, revised, second reading. I'll take a motion to approve 6.1 to 6.6. Second. This is question.
Yeah, I have a question on 6.4.
Okay.
All right, 6.4 talks about meetings and agenda. I don't have a problem with the agenda part of it, but just a thought, because it's on page 7. It says 123. It talks about that the agenda is going to be mailed or delivered to the homes of the board members 3 days prior to the board meetings. Okay, this involves like the whole board packet, and I think we've been trying to get to do electronic for a long time. And I think if we're talking about saving any money, FedExing all these things every month seems to me a waste of money. I think we should try to join the 21st century and get a little more current. And so that's why I kind of looked at this and said, really, do we really have to say that we're going to mail or deliver these things to board members' homes? I think there's a better way to communicate.
Would that be then just to say that we shall be
Communicated to the board member at least 3 days prior to the meeting. I mean, I think if you say something like that, that you can work within it.
Might I add a caveat to that? Since the board meeting materials are already currently put on the board portal, they're already there and accessible, but I'd hate to impose the electronic version on folks that may not want it. I think that should be up to the discretion. If an individual trustee requests a hard copy, I think we should still honor that.
Can we get it via email, and if you want to print out your own, print out your own?
You know how many pages?
We don't need an email that's on the board portal.
Well, let's just say shall be communicated to each board member at least 3 days, and then you can work with how you carry it out. But we're talking about shortfalls of money, and I'm thinking, can't we start with ourselves and try to save some money? Why do we FedEx these things every month? It's a lot. You start somewhere. So I would just change the language that way.
Make it an option.
Yeah.
Make it an option
Yeah,
if you'd like to.
so you would leave it as shall be mailed or delivered?
Shall be communicated.
Shall be communicated to the board members, not the homes, just
Yeah.
shall be communicated to each board member at least 3 days prior. And then you might, over time, work out how you're going to do this.
If somebody wants to mail to them or hard copy, they have that option.
Ready?
So 6.4 is as amended.
Yeah.
As,
Yes,
yeah.
as amended.
Oh, yeah, as amended is fine.
Okay.
I think it makes sense, I mean, we're using so much paper and cost
Yeah.
of delivery.
Okay.
This is 6.5, the generally shall, we just change the word shall to will. So it sounds like we have to do it generally sometimes.
Where are you?
Oh, it's just
Page eight.
next page, page 8, where it says, the order of business generally shall be, maybe that should be just generally will be as well. I think that should.
Acceptable? That's fine. Roll call.
Mr. Condenar.
Aye.
Dr. Kerrigan. Ms. Goshgarian.
Aye.
Dr. Griffin. Ms. Holland.
Aye.
Mrs. Olshager.
Aye.
Ms. Paul.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye. 6.7, policy parliamentary procedures, revised second reading. 6.8, policy 127, adoption, revised repeal, revised second reading. 6.9, policy 128, suspension, revised second reading. 6.10, policy 129, open for trustees meeting, revised second reading. 6.11, policy 130, ethics, revised second reading. And 6.12, policy 960, travel reimbursement, revised second reading. Motion on this. So moved. Is there a second? Comments or questions?
So, in the call around that I did tonight, Bernard brought up a point for us to consider on 6.8 on page 11 there, policy 127. Bernard, you want to state that you thought there should be some kind of more contingent statement, something to the effect that, we talked about it. So you say, any such adoption, revision, repeal shall not be voted upon until the next regularly scheduled meeting after formal presentation to the board in writing. The board may waive the requirement. I wonder if you want us to put a little conditional language on that, or if you're fine with it. So we could say, in cases where there's a pending, or something's pending or needed, or something.
My concern has always been that I like to sleep on matters. I think that's best practices. I think passions run high, especially if you've only been introduced to something that's your very first reading. Not everybody's there. You can wait it and push it through just for that meeting. It doesn't seem like best practices to me, but I can understand that in the case of an emergency, maybe involving legality or a deadline, that it might be prudent to keep this within the capability of the board, and we all know that the board reserves that right anyhow. So putting the language in there seems like a kind of a preemptive strike to push it farther than it needs to go. I think it's prudent and best practice to go with the original policy.
So we might put something in there that just says, in case where special consideration and immediacy is needed, the board may. That's all right.
I actually like the way it's written right now.
Yeah, and as I'm recalling, at least the almost 30 years I've been on the board, I think we've only waived the second reading once, and that was because of the legal concern.
Right.
So it's not something that happens very often.
Yeah,
that's
But it still,
exactly
but it still should be, it's still at the purview of the board to waive the second reading, and I'd suggest leaving it in there so there's no misunderstanding that the board
Exactly.
does have the right to waive second reading if it's deemed appropriate.
Mr. Condon.
Aye.
Dr. Kerrigan?
Aye.
Ms. Goshgarian?
Aye.
Dr. Griffin?
Aye.
Ms. Howland? Mrs. Olschlager?
Aye.
Ms. Paul? Mr. Anderson?
Aye.